Sirens blared as the furious crowd descended on Karen, her mother's stolen wig clutched in her trembling hands. "You mess with my family, you mess with all of us." The enraged onlookers closed in, ready to exact their own brand of justice. Karen knew she had pushed this small-town community too far, and the consequences were about to come crashing down. The midday sun beat down on the quiet gas station as Tamika pulled in, her ancient sit-in chugging to a stop. She stepped out, fishing in her purse for her wallet, when a shrill voice pierced the air. "Hey, you." "Yeah, you with the ugly weave. That's my mama's wig you're wearing." Tamika whirled around to see a woman in an electric blue jumpsuit stomping towards her, fire in her eyes. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. That's my mama's wig, and you stole it." The woman, who Tamika now recognized as the notorious town troublemaker Karen, shoved her roughly. "I didn't steal anything. This is my own hair." Tamika protested, raising her hands defensively. Karen sneered, "Oh please. That rat's nest on your head ain't fooling nobody. Now hand it over before I take it from you." Tamika clutched her head instinctively, her heart racing. "Back off, Karen. I don't want any trouble." Too late for that. Karen lunged forward, her manicured nails clawing at Tamika's scalp. Tamika stumbled backward, shrieking as Karen ripped the wig clean off her head. "No. Give that back," Tamika cried, reaching for the precious hairpiece. But Karen danced out of her reach, cackling triumphantly. "Looks like Mama's wig is coming home," she crowed, holding the wig aloft. A small crowd had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion. Tamika's eyes darted around frantically, pleading for help. "Someone, please. She stole my wig." But the onlookers only jeered and egged Karen on. "Give it back, girl. You show her, Karen. Teach that thief a lesson." Tamika's vision blurred with tears as she watched helplessly. How had this spiraled so out of control? All she had wanted was to fill up her car and get home to her sick mother. Now she was standing in the middle of a full-blown drama, her dignity and her mother's cherished wig snatched away. Karen turned to the crowd, a nasty grin spreading across her face. "You all saw what she did. This thief needs to be taught a lesson." She brandished the wig like a trophy. The crowd roared its approval, surging forward. Tamika backed away in terror, her mind racing. This was bad, really bad. She had to get out of here before things got even worse. But as she turned to flee, she found her path blocked by a wall of bodies, all intent on exacting their own brand of justice. Tamika's heart sank. There was no escape. Tamika's mind raced as she scanned the angry faces closing in around her. Karen stood triumphantly in the center, the stolen wig still clutched in her fist. Tamika's heart pounded in her ears. She had to find a way out of this nightmare before it spiraled even further out of control. All right, break it up." A gruff voice suddenly cut through the din. Tamika whirled around to see a police officer shouldering his way through the crowd, hand on his holster. "What's going on here?" Karen immediately put on her best innocent act. "Officer, this woman stole my mama's wig, and I was just trying to get it back," she whined, batting her lashes dramatically. The officer's eyes narrowed as he turned to Tamika. "Is this true, ma'am?" Tamika's mouth went dry as all eyes landed on her. No, that's not what happened at all," she stammered. "She'd attacked me and ripped the wig right off my head." The officer looked skeptical. "Well, let's see the wig then." He held out his hand expectantly. Karen thrust the wig forward gleefully. "See? It's my mama's, I swear." Tamika's heart sank. No matter what she said, it was her word against Karen's, and in this town, everyone knew who had the real power. The officer would never believe her over the notorious town troublemaker. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to come with me down to the station," the officer said sternly, reaching for Tamika's arm. "No, please. You don't understand." Tamika pleaded, her eyes darting around desperately. But the crowd only jeered and pushed closer, clearly siding with Karen. You heard the man. Thief. Karen crowed, shoving the weight into Tamika's face. Time to pay for your crimes. Tamika felt a surge of panic as the officer's grip tightened on her arm. This couldn't be happening. She had to get back to her mother. But as the crowd closed in, she knew any chance of reasoning with them was long gone. With a heavy heart, Tamika allowed the officer to lead her away, Karen's mocking laughter ringing in her ears. She had to stay calm and find a way to fix this, no matter what it took. Her mother was counting on her. The ride to the police station was suffocating, the heavy silence punctuated only by the occasional crackle of the officer's radio. Tamika stared straight ahead, her heart pounding in her ears. How had this gone so horribly wrong? When they finally arrived, the officer led Tamika inside and sat her down in a small, windowless room. All right, ma'am, let's get your side of the story, he said, settling into a chair across from her. Tamika took a deep breath, determined to stay calm. Officer, I swear I'm telling you the truth. That woman, Karen, she attacked me and ripped my wig off my head. Her voice wavered slightly. This wig, it belongs to my mother. It's all she has left. The officer regarded her steadily. I understand this is upsetting, but the facts are that Karen claims the wig is hers. Do you have any proof it belongs to your mother? Tamika's stomach twisted. No, I don't have any proof. But I'm telling you, that wig is mine. She clenched her fists, willing the tears not to fall. The officer sighed heavily. Look, I can see you're upset, and I don't doubt you believe what you're saying. But without any evidence, my hands are tied. He leaned back in his chair, fixing Tamika with a stern look. Karen's made a lot of trouble for this town over the years, but the fact is, she was the one who reported the wig stolen. Until I can verify your story, I'm afraid I have to side with her. Tamika's heart sank. She should have known it would come to this. In this town, Karen's word always carried more weight than an ordinary citizen like herself. No matter how hard she tried to fight, the deck was stacked against her. Officer, please, you have to believe me, she pleaded, her voice cracking. My mother is sick, and this wig is the only thing that makes her feel normal. I can't let Karen keep it. The officer's expression softened slightly. I understand how important this is to you, ma'am. But without proof, my hands are tied. I'll have to hold you here until we can sort this out. Tamika's stomach twisted as the gravity of the situation sank in. Held at the police station, while her mother waited at home, sick and alone. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself not to break down. She had to find a way out of this. Her mother was counting on her. The stale air in the small interrogation room seemed to close in around Tamika as she sat across from the impassive police officer. Her mind raced, desperately searching for a way out of this nightmarish situation. Look, officer, I know you have to do your job, but please, you have to believe me, Tamika pleaded, her voice quavering. That wig belongs to my mother. She's sick, and it's the only thing that makes her feel normal. I can't let Karen keep it. The officer regarded her with an unreadable expression. I understand this is important to you, ma'am. But without any proof, my hands are tied. Karen's the one who reported the wig stolen, and until I can verify your story, I have to go with the evidence I have. Tamika's heart sank. She should have known it would come to this, in this small town, where everyone seemed to know Karen's notorious reputation. Her word would always carry more weight than an ordinary citizen like herself. But that's not fair. Tamika cried, her frustration boiling over. You know how Karen is, always causing trouble and looking for a way to get attention. She's lying, I know it. And now my poor mother is sitting at home, worried sick, because I'm stuck here. The officer raised a hand, silencing her. I understand your frustration, ma'am, but yelling isn't going to help your case. Now I can see this wig means a lot to you, so how about this? I'll hold off on pressing any charges for now, and you can come back tomorrow with some proof of ownership. If you can show me that this wig truly belongs to your mother, then I'll have no choice but to return it to you." Tamika's heart leaped with a glimmer of hope. "Really? You'll do that?" The officer nodded. "I'll do my best to be fair, ma'am. But you've got to come back here tomorrow with something concrete. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll have to side with Karen." Tamika's mind raced, trying to think of what kind of proof she could possibly provide. Her mother's medical records, a photo of them together wearing the wig. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Okay, officer, I'll do it. I'll come back tomorrow, I promise. Just please, let me go home to my mother. She needs me." The officer studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "All right, you're free to go. But remember, be back here first thing in the morning with something to back up your story. Otherwise, I'll have no choice but to side with Karen." Tamika nodded, her mind whirling as the officer escorted her out of the station. She had to find a way to prove the wig was her mother's, no matter what it took. The sun was setting by the time Tamika arrived home, her mind a whirlwind of worry and determination. As she hurried through the front door, she found her mother, Rosalie, sitting in her favorite armchair, the TV flickering softly. "Tamika, baby, where have you been?" Rosalie asked, her brow furrowed with concern. I was starting to get worried. Tamika rushed to her mother's side, kneeling down and taking her frail hands in her own. "Oh, Mama, I'm so sorry. I got held up at the police station, but I'm here now." Rosalie's eyes widened. "The police station? Tamika, what on earth happened?" Tamika took a deep breath, steeling herself. "It's a long story, Mama. But that woman, Karen, she attacked me at the gas station and stole your wig." Rosalie's face crumpled with dismay. "My wig? Oh, no, baby, not my wig." Tears welled in her eyes, and Tamika's heart broke to see the pain etched on her mother's face. "I know, Mama, I know. But the officer said if I can come back tomorrow with proof that the wig is yours, he'll make Karen give it back." Tamika squeezed her mother's hands reassuringly. "Don't worry, I'm gonna fix this, I promise." Rosalie nodded weakly, dabbing at her eyes with a trembling hand. "Oh, Tamika, I don't know what I'd do without you. That wig, it's the only thing that helps me feel normal, you know." Tamika felt a surge of fierce protectiveness. "I know, Mama. And I'm not gonna let Karen or anyone else take that away from you. I'll do whatever it takes to get your wig back, you hear me?" Rosalie managed a watery smile. "I know you will, baby. You're a good girl." She reached up to stroke Tamika's cheek, her touch feather-light. "Now, tell me everything that happened. We need to figure out how to prove the wig is mine." Tamika nodded, her mind racing. She quickly recounted the entire confrontation with Karen, the jeering crowd, and her subsequent trip to the police station. Rosalie listened intently, her expression growing more and more troubled. "Oh, Tamika, I'm so sorry you had to go through that," she said, squeezing her daughter's hand. "But you were right to stand up to that wretched woman. We can't let her get away with this." Tamika felt a surge of determination. "That's exactly what I plan to do, Mama. Tomorrow, I'm going to that police station and showing them that wig is yours, no matter what it takes." Rosalie nodded, her eyes shining with pride. "I know you will, baby, and I'll be right here, waiting for you to bring it home." Tamika leaned in, wrapping her mother in a gentle embrace. She could feel Rosalie's fragile frame, a painful reminder of the illness that had ravaged her body. All the more reason to fight for this precious piece of her mother's identity. Tomorrow, Tamika would face Karen and the police head-on. For her mother's sake, failure was not an option. The sun had barely risen the next morning when Tamika arrived at the police station, her heart pounding with nervous anticipation. She strode up to the front desk, her grip tightening on the small photo album in her hands. "I'm here to see the officer I spoke with yesterday," she told the receptionist, trying to keep her voice steady. "It's about the wig incident." The receptionist eyed her for a moment, then nodded. "One moment, please." She picked up the phone, murmuring a few words before hanging up. "The officer will be right with you." Tamika fidgeted anxiously as she waited, her mind racing. She had spent the entire night combing through old photo albums, desperate to find any evidence that could prove the wig belonged to her mother. Finally, she had come across a few cherished snapshots of Rosalie wearing the distinctive style. "Ms. Johnson?" The gruff voice of the officer startled Tamika, and she whirled around to face him. "I'm glad you could make it. Come on back." Tamika followed the officer to the same cramped interrogation room as the day before, her palms sweating. This was her last chance to set things right. As they sat down, the officer fixed her with a serious look. "All right, Ms. Johnson, let's see what you've got." Tamika took a deep breath and opened the photo album, flipping to the relevant pages. "Here, officer, these are photos of my mother, Rosalie, wearing the wig that Karen took from me." The officer leaned in, studying the images closely. Tamika held her breath, praying he would see the unmistakable resemblance. After a long moment, the officer looked up, his expression unreadable. "These photos do appear to show your mother wearing a wig that matches the one Karen claims is hers. However, that doesn't necessarily prove it's the same one." Tamika's heart sank. "But officer, you have to believe me. That wig is my mother's. It's the only thing that makes her feel normal when she's so sick." She felt the familiar sting of tears in her eyes. "Please, you have to help me get it back." The officer held up a hand. "I understand, Ms. Johnson, and I want to believe you. But the fact is, Karen has been a constant thorn in this town's side for years. Her story holds more weight, at least for now." Tamika's stomach twisted with dread. "You can't be serious. After everything I've shown you, you're still going to side with that liar." The officer sighed heavily. "Look, I want to be fair, but I've got to go with the evidence I have. Unless you can provide something more concrete to prove the wig is your mother's, my hands are tied." Tamika felt her world crashing down around her. She had put all her hope in these photos, and now it was all for nothing. Karen had won, and her mother's precious wig was lost forever. Tears streamed down Tamika's cheeks as the officer stood. "I'm sorry, Miss Johnson, but I'm going to have to side with Karen on this one. You're free to go, but the wig stays here." Tamika watched helplessly as the officer turned and left the room, her heart shattering into a million pieces. How was she going to tell her mother? Tamika sat in the empty interrogation room, her vision blurred by tears. She had failed. After all her efforts, all her promises to her ailing mother, she had been powerless to stop Karen from keeping the precious wig. The drive home was a haze of anguish and despair. Tamika's heart ached at the thought of telling Rosalie the devastating news. How could she face her mother, knowing she had been unable to fulfill this simple request? When Tamika finally stepped through the front door, Rosalie looked up with hopeful eyes. "Well, baby, did you get my wig back?" Tamika felt the tears welling up again as she shook her head. "Oh, Mama, I'm so sorry. The officer, he didn't believe me. He said the photos weren't enough proof, and that he had to side with Karen." Rosalie's face crumpled, and Tamika rushed to her side, wrapping her frail frame in a tight embrace. "No, no, my wig," Rosalie sobbed brokenly. "That wretched woman, she's taken everything from me." Tamika held her mother as she wept, her own tears falling freely. "I'm so sorry, Mama. I tried. I really did. But that woman, she's just too powerful in this town. I couldn't stop her." Rosalie pulled back, her eyes red-rimmed and anguished. "But Tamika, that wig, it's all I have left. How am I supposed to feel normal without it?" She clutched at Tamika's shirt, her voice barely above a whisper. What am I going to do?" Tamika's heart shattered at the raw pain in her mother's voice. She had never felt so powerless, so utterly defeated. All she had wanted was to help her mother, to restore a small piece of her dignity. And now, that dream lay in ruins. "I don't know, Mama," Tamika whispered, her own voice cracking with emotion. "I wish I had the answer, but I don't know what else to do." The two women clung to each other, their tears mingling as they each grieved the loss of Rosalie's beloved wig. Tamika had never felt more helpless, more acutely aware of the injustice that had befallen them. But deep down, a glimmer of determination began to flicker. She might have lost this battle, but she refused to let Karen win the war. Somehow, someway, she would find a way to get that wig back and restore her mother's dignity. No matter what it took. The days that followed were a blur of sorrow and determination for Tamika. She watched helplessly as her mother's spirit slowly withered, the loss of her cherished wig weighing heavily on her fragile frame. But Tamika refused to give up. She spent countless hours poring over old photos, searching for any shred of evidence that could prove the wig's rightful ownership. She scoured the town, reaching out to anyone who might have information. But Karen had covered her tracks well, and no one seemed willing to challenge the notorious troublemaker. Finally, on the verge of despair, Tamika had a stroke of inspiration. She remembered the crowd that had gathered at the gas station, the jeering onlookers who had egged Karen on. Surely, someone in that mob had captured the confrontation on their phone. With renewed energy, Tamika hit the streets, interviewing every person she could find who had been at the scene that day. It was a long and arduous process, but slowly she began to piece together a network of potential witnesses. Then, one fateful day, Tamika struck gold. An elderly man named Mr. Johnson, who owned the gas station, revealed that he had been keeping an eye on the security footage. "I knew that no good Karen was up to no good," he grumbled, "so I made sure to save the video." Tamika's heart raced as Mr. Johnson produced a USB drive, the grainy footage clearly showing the entire confrontation, from Karen's accusation to her snatching the wig from Tamika's head. Clutching the precious evidence, Tamika rushed back to the police station, her determination fueling her every step. This time, the officer on duty listened intently as she recounted the story, his eyes widening as he watched the damning security footage. "Well, I'll be," he muttered, shaking his head. "Looks like you were telling the truth all along, Ms. Johnson. This is more than enough proof to show that wig belongs to your mother." Tamika felt a surge of triumph as the officer immediately dispatched a patrol car to retrieve the wig from Karen's home. At long last, justice was being served. When Tamika returned home, Rosalie's eyes lit up with renewed hope. "You got it, baby?" she asked, her voice trembling. Tamika nodded, carefully placing the wig in her mother's shaking hands. "Yes, Mama. I got it back. That wretched Karen won't be keeping your wig anymore." Rosalie burst into tears of joy, running her fingers through the familiar strands. "Oh, Tamika, my sweet girl. I knew you could do it." She pulled her daughter into a fierce embrace, her frail body shaking with relief and gratitude. Tamika held her mother close, a bittersweet smile on her face. The battle had been long and arduous, but in the end, the rightful owner had reclaimed her treasured possession. Justice had been served, and the dignity of the Johnson women had been restored. As Rosalie settled the wig back onto her head, Tamika knew that the true victory lay not in the wig itself, but in the unbreakable bond between a mother and daughter. Through thick and thin, they would always have each other, and that was worth fighting for, no matter the cost.